Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Tuesday. Today, we are going to be focusing on digital literacy, specifically connected to the idea of how that connects to digital citizenship, some tools around there, and some tools that can enhance the way that we comprehend our literacy and different ways that students can have resources to enhance that within the classroom. In a minute, giving you a minute to settle in. What I do want you to remember is you can collaborate with us on the document link, as well as collaborating with us on Twitter or on Yammer using the hashtag DPChats. So I'll give you a minute to settle in, and I'm going to flip screens. Okay, so as I said, we are going to be exploring literacy in a digital age for the next 20 minutes, and we're going to be looking at 3 resources. Uh, when we think of digital literacy, it's the ability to locate, organize, understand, evaluate, and analyze information using digital technologies. So things that are even within our web or on the apps that they're using, whatever they may be using to communicate with one another. The 3 components of digital literacy that emerge when you looking at literature is one of them being social awareness. So understanding their identity, the way they collaborate with one another, the way they adapt to communication. So when it's online, whether it be discussion through email, through blogs and essays, whatever they may be doing, how they're adapting their communication abilities. Critical thinking, so the way they're evaluating the resources coming in, the way that they're relating it to real life circumstances and what that means. And then the knowledge of the digital tools. So, how well are they able to use them? How well are we teaching them to enhance their learning through the tools that we're presenting within the class? When we think of the Catholic graduate expectations, 2 of the ones that stand out today while I'm speaking are the ability to be an effective communicator. So, through all of this, when we think of the idea of digital literacy, it's not just the idea of communicating, but how much their understanding is deepened through how they're communicating and what they're reading and what's coming in to them, as well as the ability to be a collaborative contributor. So, how well they work with others, how well they work with content, or even on a global stance, how they are interacting with the information that's coming into them and collaborating with those around them and those online. The first thing that I want to take a look at is the idea of focusing in on digital citizenship and some resources that could really help when it comes to thinking of digital literacy. One of the components of digital citizen is really looking at the idea of presence and communication. So we want the students here to be able to communicate appropriately to their audience. So as I said, they may be, depending on what form they're writing and who they're writing to, they're contributing in a positive way to our global communities. So they're leaving a good footprint on the internet, whatever they may be posting or doing. They're able to identify and respond appropriately to online issues, whether it be their cyberbullying or something, whatever may be happening that they know that it shouldn't be, or what do they do when things happen or things go wrong. And they're able to develop a positive reputation and digital footprint. So some of these things really have to do with that development and idea of our digital literacy. So we remember now that technology provides opportunities for our students to learn, connect, create, and collaborate in ways we've never imagined before. But how can educators build a positive school culture that supports safe and responsible use of technology? Some of the resources that I'm going to bring you to is one being Common Sense Media. Common Sense Media has interactive games, some lessons, activities, assessments, as well as another one called Media Smarts. So I'm just going to pull out here, and I actually want to go into the web. Oop. For some reason, there we go. There it is. Just had to pull up the right one. So this is the first one when we're looking at Common Sense Media. In the common sense media, one of the ones that I wanted you to see is the digital bites. When we go into the digital bites, this itself is digital games that tackle real world dilemmas. So they bring you through, I'm just going to move into it. So you're able to basically have a facilitator guide, and it brings you through a bunch of different dilemmas and things that the students would encounter, specifically designed for teens. They're student directed, they're media rich activities, and they're having the students really engage and think about the issues that may come up while online, specifically around the idea of the literacy that they are developing. So when they're building their own voice online, they're making smart and safe choices. And how do we teach them how to do that? So here's one great resource that we can go to be able to develop that. The other one here was there's different lessons and activities that are developed. And one of them is if we go into the iBooks or Nearpod, but here they're a free download. And basically they have lesson videos, interactive worksheet activities, interactive unit assessments, and they bring you through how to go through. So for example, you can see up here that they're working on creating a positive digital footprint. They bring the students through a scenario, they have an activity and some sort of assessment in order to understand where they're at with basically understand what it means to develop a positive digital footprint. So this is a really great resource in order to guide you through that. Another one here is Media Smarts. And the Media Smarts, it has a lot of different things. You can see here that it has media issues, digital issues, games that they can go through. Some of it you'll have to scan through and see what's appropriate for their age level. Even though here this says grade 7 to 9, but it's a policy. So think you know how to read and understand privacy policy in terms of use. Learn how to make sense of legal documents for websites. So really everything that the students now are beginning to sign up in high school, they have to understand what they're signing. They're putting their name to it and attaching email and personal information. They have to understand the importance of being able to read terms and conditions or terms of use and what they're signing up for and agreeing to and how important that may be. So issues such as these, there's resources within there, how to be connected, how to have a balanced life, how to be respectful. So all of these things that are so important to be being a digital citizen online and building our reputation and knowing that it's not just face-to-face anymore and that the world has changed to a real great communication and relationship factor online as well. As we think of some different tools that we can use in order to develop actual literacy within our classrooms, there's a great site called Newsela. And what it provides is multiple news articles and nonfiction. And for each news article, there's 5 different reading levels. And I'm going to bring you in and show you what that looks like. So there's an archive of more than 1,000 articles, and there's daily articles that are added in each day, updated so that the articles itself are current. There's no advertisements, and you can have a one-click assignment of articles to classes. So you can then look at an article and assign it to your class so they know which one you want them to read. And you're able to view a class-wide result. So with the free version, you can't see individual results, but you're able to see what the class itself is doing. So if I give you a sense before we go in of what it does have to offer, we see that up top here are actually the topics and what you can go into. So War and Peace, science, maybe specifically just looking at something that has to do with kids are in there. We know that we can sign up multiple classes, which is great when we have multiple courses. We can add a class in, and the students just have to come in with a sign-up code. So they just register using that code, and they don't have to worry about going in and putting in any information. When we do come in, you can assign readings to groups of students. The light bulb tells you that a comprehension quiz is available. And this is where it takes the average. So if all your kids do the quiz, it's going to take the average of that. And the students can themselves select a level of reading that they best prefer. So if this is too high and they're not really understanding the lexile here uh, of the article, they can actually themselves go down and have the ability to read at a different comprehension level, but still understand the content that's coming through. I am just going to move quickly. There we go. Just finding it again. So here we go. So here I'm in my Newsela. I've signed into here, and I can see that I have a list of articles that I've come into here, and I'm able to go into any of these sections and take a look at recent articles. The other thing that I can do is I can look at articles at grade level. So if I just want to see articles specific to the grades that I am teaching, I could go in and take a look at what's there. And there's a lot of them already placed in. If I want to be even more specific about what I'm searching for and I want to look for a specific reading standard, maybe I'm looking for a central idea or I'm looking for people, events, and ideas, then I could even center that in a little bit more. And I know that the text itself is going to be centered in on that idea, on people, events, and ideas. And then I know that I'm going to be focusing when I go to this light bulb, the specific thing that the quiz focuses on is central idea and then people and events. So if I go into one of these, the melting Arctic ice temps cruise ships, I'm going to go in. All right, so what you're going to see here is that I have a few things that I can do. So at the highest level, I can see that I am taking a look at the text. I can read it. If I do want to switch it, as I begin to switch levels, you can see that the words themselves are beginning to change. So the comprehension of what the student is reading, begins to get a little bit easier, and even a little bit, the text itself shortens so that basically it's the main part but simplified. So depending on where you want the students to be, you can assign the lexile for them, or you can allow the students to choose where they may want to be reading at the text and how that may look. So if they're ready for something like that, and you know your students best, and it depends what you're teaching, and it also depends, what your focus is. If it's not technically on just being able to read the words, it's just on the content itself and what they do with it, then really you're allowing them the ability to read at the comprehension level that suits them best. They can then go into a quiz, and what happens for them is they're not going to see the correct answer, but what happens is they get to go through each one, and it'll read the question, so they can read the question and they choose the correct answer. And after they go through each one, in the end, it'll review it for them. So they will still be able to see where they were correct and where they need to improve. And I think this part right here, this is what the teacher sees, but in the student level, they're not able to see at what grade level that they're working at. This is just in the teacher account. So this way, they're not caught up with the fact that they may be reading at a lower grade level. They're more focusing on the ability to understand the content and then what they're going to do with that. The teacher is not able to individually go in with the free one to see how each student's doing. There's obviously another account, a pro account, that you can then go in and have individual analysis of each student's. But if that's something that you do want, then you can create an Excel survey or a Google Forms, and you can create something in which the students are answering in another venue, so that you're creating quiz questions based on an article that you chose, and then you can develop that assessment information and document on another tool if you wish to do so. So it's just that idea of what this tool itself has to offer. So all in all, when we think of the idea of digital literacy, I want you to think of it as, a collection of literacies, right? It's not just that idea of reading and writing anymore. You really have to think beyond that. That's really the idea of information literacy that we probably most think of it as. So we find, interpret, evaluate, and manage the information and what they do with it. But as we begin to move beyond this, we look at the idea of media literacy and how they critically understand and creatively produce and what they're doing with the information that they're taking in from here. How do they, during and after uh, collecting the information, participate in digital networks? How are they learning together and how are they building online? In the end, so important. Really, you have to understand as you're building these literacies here, your communication, your collaboration, it really leads to your identity and how they manage their digital reputation and online identity. And are these discussions that you're having with your students when you're talking about communicating online? There's a lot of times when we do our sessions and teachers talk about how students are acting inappropriately online, and that's why they don't want to use tools online. But most importantly, what you have to realize is that in order to teach how to use the tools and how to develop a reputation, for the students to learn how to be respectful, learn how to behave, to some extent, it has to be modeled and taught and has to be encouraged and shown. When we think of the tools, they now need ICT literacy. They need to understand how to use the digital devices and applications. They have to be able to change their learning skills in which they can study and learn effectively in technology-rich environments, both formal and informal. And finally, as they become digital scholars, they participate in emerging academic, professional, research practices, and that goes probably up until as they're beginning to graduate and working on building their own blogs, their own resources, and even possibly then building that idea of their own e-portfolio and leading into their career as they move on. So when you think of digital literacy, it is well-rounded, and it doesn't have to do with just the information, but it has to do with who they are, with the devices they're using, as well as the learning skills in which they're building. So I'm just going to come back here to you. So thanks so much for joining us today. Hopefully you're able to use a tool or two when it comes to building the students' digital citizenship as well as building their literacy online. Hopefully we see you on Digital Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.